The new channel. The new channel. Hashtag TNC Now.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following shows are those of the host, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the new channel. Born out of passion, we are a community that's here to help you be the new you. I'm Dr. Michelle Mras, live streaming from Colorado Springs, Colorado, in the gorgeous mountains. You're watching Mental Shift. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mental Shift. I'm Dr. Michelle Mras. Tonight, my guest is becoming the best you, is what she talks about. She has been an entrepreneur since high school. She's seen many fortunes and knows what the word loss means on so many different levels. She has overcome the pain of loss, incarceration, and cancer, and stepping up to be the person you want to be, changing your actions and thoughts, and encouraging others to do it with you. Now, let's get started on changing your life, is what she loves to say. So please welcome my friend, Brenda Ringwood.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I love that BTBY, be the best you.
Yes, that's what it stands for. And, we go with the hashtag BTBY. It's just kind of got a long name, but it's worth it because there's a journey to becoming the best you.
Exactly. You've had quite the journey. I'm going to ask you the question I love to ask everyone here on Mental Shift is, you've had a major mental shift. I know several, but a major mental shift that brought you from where you were to where you are now and why you give back to the world. Can you share with our audience, what was that mental shift?
I never thought I was good enough. I never thought that I was enough. And because I have a past, that tended to make it worse, to amplify it. So I've been a speaker for decades, but it was not really who I was because I was pretending to be somebody else. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. Oh. I have a voice. I have a story. I have a purpose, and I'm going to become the best version of myself. And I'm going to help others do that because everybody deserves to be happy.
I like it. Now, you talked about in your intro, you had that incarceration, loss of fortunes, cancer. Can you share a little bit of that backstory? Because it's powerful. I know it, but I want the audience to hear it.
Oh yeah, I wasn't living my life the way that I was supposed to be living. So, I was still giving back, and I was generous, and I was doing all the things that everybody wanted me to do. I was being the person that they wanted me to be. I wasn't really living the life that I wanted to be. So I grew this massive company that turned into other companies. And employees and all these things. And I was living that American dream, right? Living that American dream. Question is what really is the American dream and what does it stand for? So I was living what you would call the American dream. I have been self-employed since high school. I've never had a boss where I would go and clock in since high school. So I was stuck. I didn't think I could do anything else. I was miserable. I hated my job. I hated the very environment that I had created. And when you're that negative about things, illnesses set in, and I was a believer living deep in sin, and God doesn't honor that. And I went through cancer in 2011, went through radiation, went through chemo, went through major surgeries. And 3 years later, I ended up in prison. So coming out of cancer and going into prison was a culture shock. So I went from shift of I'm going to die possibly to being uprooted and removed from everybody and everything that I loved. And that was a culture shock for me because I lived a very sheltered, loving life as a kid. That's not who I was. And God ripped out the carpets from me and said, no more. You need to change. You tell me you're a child of mine, but your actions say different. So I had to change. I had to completely rethink everything about myself, and it had to start from the inside out.
Yep. I know
I'm
that.
getting in that self.
No, I mean, you got incarcerated. I got hit by a car. Yeah, had to
Yes,
slow us down enough to listen and make us reevaluate who we truly are.
right. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for that because had none of that happened, I would still be stuck in that lifestyle. It'd still be, yeah, the money was good. I had a great house, the cars, the things, the boats, the RVs, whatever came with it. I had it, right? But none of it was real because I wasn't happy. It was just sitting there. It sat there more than it got used because number one, I didn't have time to do it. Number two, when I had the time, I was so exhausted I couldn't do it. And number three, it was expensive to run the toys. Who wants to put $100 in a gas tank to go around a lake, right? So, especially when you're not really wanting to do it. So the things that I was working towards having became a prison within themselves. I became house poor. You had the mortgage payments and the boat payments and the car payments and everything that goes along with that, right? And the real estate and the mortgages and everything that went with owning a business. And I was stuck. I couldn't get out of it because now I'm in debt. So now what am I going to do? Yeah, the money's nice, but the debt was just as big. So I had to change my life. And the only way that was going to happen was for a major shift to come into play. And my major shift, you thought I would have learned it with cancer, right? No, it hardened my heart. I was upset. I was mad. And, how dare this happen to me? And, I don't have time to be sick. So that saying that says you better take care of your health or your health's going to take care of you, that's very true. Because if you don't take that time, that health is going to make the time. And that's what happened to me. I had to take about a year off of work. I was in and out, though. I was still involved, which put me in a bad situation. It put me with people that I shouldn't have been running with and trusting the wrong people. I thought I was going to have to sell my company because didn't know if I was going to live or die. My husband didn't want anything to do with it. He hated the industry as well. He was ready to get out of it. My kids were still, I had 2 in high school and I had 2 in college. They were still too young. So I looked for somebody to buy it. And I had to stay on because I was so involved in it. I would have had to stay on for a couple years. Got in with wrong people. And it landed me in prison. And, all by my own faults. I could have said no. I could have did things differently. But sometimes you get so desperate that you do things you shouldn't do. And don't ever let yourself get in that situation because it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. But for me, I don't ever want to go back, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I was never going to change if something drastic didn't happen. So I was one of those, you could take the belt to me and whip me and think you're going to get me to change. And that didn't work, So I was on this highway to hell, basically. And I was going on my mission for whatever it was that I saw. And God's given me exit and exit and exit to get off of this highway. And I wasn't taking it. I wasn't listening. So he had to put that prison cell right down the middle of that highway for me. And that's what it, mm-hmm. That's what it is.
Well, I'm just thinking of all the people who are watching the show right now and they're thinking, I'm great. Everything's fine.
Mhm.
It's like, are you? Or do you think you are? And so
That's
not
right.
to put doubt in, but a lot of times we're rowing our boat, thinking that everyone's rowing with us, and really they're not. They're looking for a way to get you so that they can go take the boat from you and they can roll too. So you just, and I'm not trying to be negative. It's just look at the people around you and realize not everyone there is cheering you. Some of them
No,
are just there to watch the fire show.
that's right. And some of them want to put fuel on that fire. And that's exactly what happened to me. They saw a sick woman who was in a weak mindset, not knowing what was going to happen. And they tried to take advantage of me business wise. And if had I been on my game, things might have been a little bit differently, but I was ill. I was desperate. I was trying to survive. And when you go into survival mode, sometimes you do things you're not proud of. Instead of listening to my gut and standing up for what I believed in, I made a lot of mistakes. And looking back, it all could have been avoided. It absolutely could have been avoided. But I was so deep, and I call it the muck, the mud. I was up to my eyeballs in it. I was in it so deep that I had to have, I could barely breathe. It's just my nostrils peeking out of that mud. And when you get to that point, you don't know what else to do. So to stay afloat, you tend to make bad decisions and you don't have the right mindset to get you out of it. And when you're in that position, two things are going to happen. You are either going to drown or you're going to get out of it. There's no in between there. And I chose to get myself out of it. I chose to start working on the inside of me, to start changing my mindset, to start changing the way that I thought about life, about the people that I cared about. And I started putting priorities in place that would allow me to say, okay, my family's going to come first. The people who have been with me and stuck with me are going to come next. But before any of that, I had to rebuild my relationship with Christ. And through him, I was able to see that I had a value and that I was there to do his work. And because I wasn't listening, it also proved because of the discipline that I was loved. Because he tells us that if you're a child of God, the chastening of the hand's going to happen, which is the same thing you do to your kids, right? When they make a mistake, you scold them. They get in trouble for it because you don't want them to repeat it. You're trying to teach them. So that proved to me that that prison cell was God's love for me. And once I accepted that, my life started to change. And I said, God, get me out of here. What do I got to do to get out of here, right? 4 years later, I'm still sitting there. I'm still fighting my case. There's no end in sight. They're wanting me to do 6.5 years. Things are, that the unknown is still there. And I finally decided, okay, I'm at peace. If I get 20 years, if I get one more year, whatever it is, I'm going to be at peace. And those doors opened. God found a way. Mm-hmm.
When you stop struggling in the quicksand, you rose
Yes.
back up.
And that mud turned into my quicksand, but my way out was that arm of Christ pulling me out of that mud. And it took 4 years for that to happen. The first year I was in denial. I didn't want to admit that I had, how I didn't cause this, right? It wasn't my fault. How dare me? I'm Brenda Wood. How did this happen? Right? This is some mistake. Those doors are going to open. So I'm fighting with myself. I'm fighting with God for an entire year in that prison cell. And finally I get on my knees and I realize that this is all you, girl. You did this to yourself. This isn't God. This is God showing you need to change. And I decided I wasn't going to let it be a waste of my time. I wasn't going to become the statistic. I wrote 4 books while I was incarcerated. 3 of them are now published. So I used my time wisely. I read probably 300 books, on self-help. And, I didn't watch much TV and I didn't get involved. And I was never in a prison. I was in a federal holding facility. So you had no freedom there. It's maximum security. So you couldn't even go out on the yard unless the whole group went, and you only got an hour if they had a female officer to take you, because it was, yes. Mm-hmm. So I lived inside a day room basically that had rooms off of it. And inside that day room was the TV, tables where you ate, the showers, and the microwaves.
Wow.
It was my life for 4 years, and I actually was at peace with it. Come to find out, I get a letter from my attorney that said, I'm coming to see you. We got some news. My prosecutor had listened to my phone calls, which is against my rights. And I was supposed to do 78 months. I got out in 44 because the only remedy for that is to let you out. That's it, because he violated my rights. It's illegal. It's against my rights for them to listen to my attorney phone calls. It basically says that the prosecutor, and there was a big problem within the office. It wasn't just necessarily my prosecutor. It was this office in Kansas City, Kansas had a problem with one of their prosecutors, but they were listening to phone calls to try to get the one up on people to win cases. And that's not right. This happened 2 months after I was there, and I could have got out, but we didn't know about it because God said, you're not ready yet.
Yeah, you're not ready.
So 4 years later, not only was it that I wasn't ready yet, I hadn't reached the people who he wanted me to reach in that jail. And since I've been out, I've been able to dedicate my life back to helping people change. So I tagline myself the professor of change. If I can do it, you can do it. If I can overcome the past that I've overcome with the health problems, the ruined relationships, prison time, you can do it. But you got to want to do it. You know, if you don't need to change, then be happy where you are. Don't complain about it. But if you
Yeah,
really want
it's
to
a
change,
choice. You can
yeah,
choose to move or choose to stay where you are.
that's right. So now
So,
here we are years later, and I'm still doing what I said I would do.
so how long after you left incarceration did you start the Be the Best You?
Well, my first year out, my health was so bad because, let's face it, I had just went in just like 2.5, 3 years after I received my last chemo in 2011, and I was incarcerated in 2014. So right at 3 years. So my health wasn't the best. I wasn't really getting my annual treatments and the testing to see if cancer has gone, if it's come back. So I was so ill when I got out that I ended up having 5 major surgeries that first year. I had knee replacements. I had cancer in my neck, so the other side had swelled. So they thought that maybe that was cancer, so I'd have that removed, and it was just back to back to back. So 2018 into the first part of 2019, I was just healing and reconnecting with my family. I went to a Dr. West speaking event, Dr. Ruben West, and I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything but the clothes on my back because while I was in there, we had a house fire and we lost everything.
Whoa.
So I literally had, and my family couldn't really go buy me clothes because I didn't know what size I was. I had put on so much weight being in prison. It's ridiculous because what they feed you. And I only had what I walked out with. So I was down on myself, and I saw this thing on Facebook that he was giving back tickets to the community to give back. And I won a free ticket. So I almost didn't go to this event. So I go to this event, and Dr. West takes the time out to spend with me in breaks in a side room. And I told him my story, and he didn't believe it, because he said the person sitting in front of me is not the person that reflects somebody that came out of prison. I said, I'm not that person anymore. And we just started connecting, and he started to give me back that you should get back into speaking, give me back that self-esteem, give me back that purpose again. And, your family tells you that. But it's different when this complete stranger comes up and tells you that. So then I got involved with his network, and then COVID comes around, right? So I said, you know what? People don't understand what incarceration is about. So I'm going to just start doing some interviews to teach them the good, the bad, the ugly about it. What's good about it, what's bad about it. So I started doing kind of prison reform shows. And I would talk to people who had been incarcerated, who had turned their lives around, family members of people who were incarcerated, police officers, police chiefs, attorneys, correctional officers, wardens, people, anything in the industry to educate the people about the prison system. And that led to other speaking people saying, can you come on our platform and do this? But it still wasn't enough. It still wasn't enough because, you see, I was being stereotyped. I was I was a felon. I was
Mhm.
bad news. Look what she did. So I started my own platform because people need that chance to change. And that's what becoming the best you is about. It's not about felons. It's not a prison ministry, although we do have one. And it's not about the prison community. It is about everyday people who need to change their lives, become a better version of themselves because they owe it to them and they owe it to their family. And when you do that, you reach a level of happiness and love I can't even begin to explain. So I change myself. I'm very rich. I change what I use. I use love as my currency and relationships and friendships as my tool to get there.
Nice.
And when you do that and you make it about the people, it becomes priceless. I went back to everybody that I had wronged. Some didn't talk to me, didn't even return my emails. Some did, and we picked right back up where we left off. And some were just okay. The relationships there, but the ones who didn't want to talk, that door is still open because I wasn't going to move into a movement and not be willing to go back and repair. So
Mhm.
those doors are open, and if any of you are out there that want to come talk to me, please do. This door is always going to be open to you. Will I be able to give you back what you lost? Probably not, but we can move forward. And I talk about forgiveness, and everybody says, "Oh, they didn't ask me for forgiveness." Forgiveness is for you. I had to
Mm.
forgive. I had to forgive myself, and I had to forgive others that had wronged me before I could even begin to heal myself,
Yeah.
before I could begin to change.
The most difficult person in the entire world to forgive is yourself.
That's right. Hmm.
And, especially when it's like, I should have known better. Well, now
Right.
you do. Now you do. Lesson
Exactly.
learned. Forgive yourself for that. You acted in the frame of mind you were in at the time. So you just got to give yourself a break and
You do
grow
it.
from there. And now, if people were wanting to find BT by be the best you, I say BT by be the best you. Uh, what's the website? Where should they go to find where
Well,
you are and what's going on?
it's called comechangeyourlife.com because that's what
Come,
we need.
there it is.
Comechangeyourlife.com.
Come
It is
change your.
about true change. Our speakers, the people that are involved in our movement, man, we are from all walks of life. We are from all different nationalities, and it is truly about change. They want to see you get to the next level of your life. It is a movement about the next stage of your life, and we're going to help you do that. We
Oh,
have so
that's
many.
how I met you because I met a couple of your speakers who
That's
said you have
right.
got to meet Brenda.
You did, and these guys are just phenomenal. We have we have so many free things. We have our virtuals are free. We have free masterminds. We have a mastermind coming up next week. We just did one last month. We've got an in-person event coming up. You have to pay for those because we have to pay for the venue. It's going to be in St. Louis in February. I think you're coming to speak. And then we have the TV show, which is about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. People just like you and me who changed their mindset. When you change your mindset, and then you change your actions, I guarantee you it's going to change your life. And that's what becoming the best you is about. It is
Yep.
about changing your mindset, which is why I'm on your show because it is about mind mind shifting. You're all about the mental shift, and there that is powerful because who you are on the inside doesn't always reflect who you are on the outside. But there's no reason why it shouldn't. We tend to hide. We don't want people to know. And it's okay to not like something. It's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to want to change and do better. And it's not okay to be the person that somebody else wants you to be. It's not
Oh,
okay to be the person that your parents expected you to be, your spouse, your friends. That's not okay. And that's what landed me into the trouble because I was miserable and I was unhappy and I hated my life. But you wouldn't have known it to look at me. I had the perfect marriage. I got a great marriage. I've been married 35 years, even through prison. But looking in, things look great. But the actual inside of me was a mess. My
yeah.
house was clean until you opened them closets and you looked under the bed and saw all that dust. Mhm.
Well, and that's why, as a coach, I talk to people about finding the best version of them, not what other
Yes.
people say. You must look inside. I said, you need to get quiet. Oh no. Oh no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go in this mess. I do, but that's where you are. All that cloud, all that this cobwebs, all the things you don't want to see. That is what you need to get through to find who you are. And once you find who you are, it doesn't matter what the rest of the world says to you. You
That's right.
know you. And that's how you got floundered, is because one, you were sick. Two, you weren't you. You
That's
were
right.
pretending to be you, and you
It
were
was all
unhappy and just enjoying the money and acting like you had it, when actually as much as coming in was going right back
one
out.
night. And see, that's what, when I drive by and I see somebody driving that Mercedes, now, I'm not saying there's a lot of people pay cash for the cars and they have the money. That's not what I'm saying. But the majority of them are in debt. And debt brings discontent, and it brings strife in a marriage and into a relationship. Most people fight about money. And I tell you what, when I came out, I had nothing. And my husband was already paying the bills and working the jobs that he needed with the bills that he had. So I didn't have to go back to work right away. God cleared a path for me to do exactly what I'm doing.
To start again.
Yes. And I had a friend tell me, you can't go back to corporate America because that's like cocaine to you. And he was right. He was right. It's not a place that I need to be, because if I put myself back in that environment, and I would thrive there, and I could make a lot of money there, and I could go back to doing what I know how to do. Nobody can take your education or your experience away. And I had job offers. I had my competitors. Will you come to work for me? Well, if I'm going to go back and do the same industry, I'm going to do it for myself. So that's a no. Thank you. But I was good at my job. So I had job offers for that, for decent salaries. But it wasn't going to give me the room to grow. And it would have been too easy to go back and become the person that I had just changed from being. So I had to remove myself from that situation, which is just like a drug addict. He was right. It would have been like cocaine to me.
So do you use, from what your corporate job, do you use it in what you do with BTBY now?
I do. I've been self employed since high school. So I've always had a sales background. So I've always been able to go find work. So I can go find people. I can use what I know in sales in my speaking career. How we fund becoming the best you is through my speaking, through doing social media management for folks, some websites, some branding. I don't personally coach, but we have coaches, and that's kind of how we fund this. And then through the events that we do charge tickets for. But we don't take donations because of my past. I don't want anybody to ever think there's an impropriety there. So we give them a service for the money, just like everybody else does, right? We get paid for a service. But we have very reasonable rates because of that, probably cheaper than you're ever going to find. And we have a staff of people, they're not even a staff, they're a team of people who donate a lot of time to make this work. Because there's a lot of people who have two jobs. They have this day job, okay, that's used to paying the bills. And then they have their dream job, what they really want to do, this hobby, or this artist, or this author, or this speaker, or this network marketer that's doing all this stuff on the side. So we give them the opportunity to expand that business at a rate that they can afford. Who realistically, who can afford a $20,000 branding package, right? If they could afford that, then they still wouldn't need that day job. So we make things affordable for them to shift into the life that they want, to start living the life that they want. And then we also teach them. So like for me, let's say you're making whatever your salary is, and you have this $4,000 a month mortgage payment, and you don't really need that big of a house because the kids are gone. So why not downsize and get you $1,000 a month house? Now you got $3,000 a month to go create the business and the life that you want. Why wouldn't you do that? But people say, what will people think if I have a smaller house? Are they paying your bills?
Well, and that's the
So
other reason we said about that. If you know who you are, it doesn't matter what other people
that's right.
say.
That's right.
And the reason
Yes.
I asked you the question about, have you reapplied your business sense,
Mhm.
your business skills to what you do now? Because I have a lot of people who watch Mental Shift
Mhm.
who do, well, I got this education, I got to use it. I mean, I have to stay in this field because that's how I like to say, your knowledge can never be taken away.
Nope.
Reapply it to the way into what you want to do. So yes, you're really good at what you did. Yes, you got some education, certificate, whatever, and whatever that is. Everything you learn can be applied in some way, shape, or form to something you love to do. So what is it? My background's in engineering, quality systems management. I'm a numbers person. I know when I can find bottlenecks in anything and fix them very quickly.
Mhm.
I did it for machines. I did it for missile silos. I did it for things, big things. Well, the magic about that is now I use it in the mindset of people.
Mhm.
So it's the
Right.
same stuff applied differently.
Exactly.
Brenda is doing the same stuff applied differently.
Mhm.
What do you have in your life that can be applied to what really feeds your soul? Brenda and I both love to feed other people, feed their souls, uplift them, and help them go find the best version of them to go out and be them so they can give back to the world in the way they're meant to.
Mm.
So, what do you do? What background do you have that you can apply to something that's is a passion for you? Brenda and I we're great examples of people who have majorly shifted what we used to do to what we do today. And none of my knowledge is wasted. None of Brenda's knowledge is wasted. So whatever you're doing and you're saying, I can't do this because I got this and it's supposed to be applied to this. I want you to sit down, write it down and figure out how can you be the best version of you using the stuff you already know, reapply it, reinvent it, and go be you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Sounds like you need to come work over here at BTBY.
I'll come out in the spring and speak at your event. It's a
Absolutely.
hop, skip, and a jump from Colorado, Kansas City.
Well, the two states do border.
It's
But you know
driving
what?
distance to me.
It is. It's about a 10-hour drive to Kansas City. So it's probably, since this one is in St. Louis, it's even further than that. But, seeing that aha moment come on in people's lives when they go, I do have a value and I have a purpose and I can actually earn an income doing that. Wow. Because now you have reached a level of happiness, and I will take happiness over that old life any day. Any day.
Mhm.
It's powerful.
I'm so glad you joined me today. Oh, I almost forgot. I have to go to commercial. So don't go away, Brenda. And for those of you who are watching, or if you're watching the replay, share this with a friend. Someone you know and love needs to be able to hear what Brenda is sharing tonight. So stick around. We'll be right back after these commercials. Well, thank you for watching Mental Shift. Have you shared this with someone that you care about? This show is all about becoming the best you. Now, did you know that TNC is a live stream platform of online shows for people on the go? Please watch all of our shows as you see on the screen right now. Imagine having your own show, your own playlist, your own content, but we make it easier for you. TNC aims to transform the lives of our viewers through engaging, authentic, and original content. Our vision is to become a global 24/7 live stream channel that showcases Filipino talent, global influencers, cultural intelligence, and ingenuity. Continue to watch Mental Shift live every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time in the United States and Wednesdays at 10:30 a.m. in the Philippines. You can also watch replays via Facebook or YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcast. You just need to search hashtag TNC Now. For sponsorships, please email now@thenewchannel.com or send a direct message to the new channel. So enjoy these life-changing shows because we made them for you. And please welcome back to Mental Shift. I'm Dr. Mras with my guest tonight, Brenda Ringwood.
You know, I want to make sure that everybody knows I am not glorifying incarceration.
No, you definitely aren't.
But sometimes it's necessary. And I interviewed a lady from the Kansas Department of Corrections, and she says, we're not in the punishment business. We are in the corrections business. It's the judge's job to do the punishment, right? And it's up to the individual that's incarcerated to accept the correction. I chose to accept the correction. I chose to accept my responsibility and my part in my actions and my behavior that got me there. Yeah. So that is not in a story itself is not the big picture. The thing that I am glorifying is God, because when it becomes God's story, it's the real story. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
Nope. So if someone wanted to work with you, how did they reach your community?
You can go on over to comechangeyourlife.com. You can go over to my other website, which is mine, which is thingsbybrenda.com. And everything I have is at Brenda Ringwood. So LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of it's at Brenda Ringwood. Come find me. YouTube. You know, there is a lot on my YouTube channel. If you want to go kind of see what all we do, there's some shows on there. We have numerous TV episodes. We started the TV show in, I think, June.
What is it called?
It is called Becoming the Best You. It is called BTBY TV. And we have just regular people doing extraordinary things. And it gives the hope and encouragement because it shows the challenges that they had to overcome to get to the point that they're at. And we have everyday people. We have millionaires. It is all walks of life on here. And I did a show where we were, it was our last virtual actually in August. And I had a guy on the show and he says, everybody wants to be a millionaire. And this guy was one of them. And he said, but sometimes the best thing for you is not being a millionaire. See, me having money was not the best thing for me because it forced me to live a life that was a lie. So you need to really wrap your head around what kind of life you want. And I could go back to that life. I'm choosing not to. I am choosing to make a difference. And I am choosing to put my time and to invest my time in other people. I'm investing in people because after all, what else is there to invest in?
Well, and you also reevaluated who you truly are and what really does feed your soul. And what you found was giving back to people really did feed you. You had the other way and it didn't feed you. And when you were trying to feed it, it ended you in jail. So it's like, it wasn't worth the price. You learned the lesson of what you really needed in life, and now you're living it. And that's beautiful because I've met some of the people in your family, in your tribe, and they're wonderful, wonderful people. And I'm just thinking that anyone who's looking to reach out to you to find out what more you do and the things you do, I encourage all of you, and if you're curious on what Brenda does share and train, they've got a lot of free training out there. Go to comechangeyourlife.com. It's all one big word.
It-
Comechangeyourlife.com. And then go figure out what they do, because they do have a lot of events. They do have virtual events, but the virtual events are free. You've got a lot of trainings that are free. I know a lot of your coaches in your world, that you have in your tribe, and just good people. And if you're looking for someone who can help you come be the best you, is go to that tribe and see if someone there clicks with you, because I'm quite sure you're going to find somebody. And I loved it, because when I met Brenda's, two of her coaches, actually, they heard me say, be the best version of you unapologetically. And they went, do you know Brenda? And I said, no. And they do. You should probably know Brenda. I'm like, why? She says the same thing.
Mhm.
I say, be the best version of you. You say, be the best you. And he's like, you've got to meet Brenda. And he got on his phone and he wrote in his. And at the same time, Prince is on the other side. So Chuck was writing with me. Prince was on the other side writing you at the same time. And then they both came to the center and said, oh, Michelle, we connected you with Brenda. You need to meet her. And they both went, we both did it at the same time. She's got to meet you now.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, they are wonderful people. And not only are they wonderful people, they're genuine and they care about people becoming the best versions of themselves. These guys donate their time. They've
Mhm.
never charged for speaking. They donate their time to do this. They donate their travel even.
About to say,
It,
Prince does his
yeah,
travel too.
he does his travel and he has to take off work to do this. And he's got a fabulous story. I mean, from homeless to homeowner. I mean, who
Yeah.
does that, right? And best-selling author, and he's now, I think, 3 or 4 books, and he loves his job, he loves his life, and he loves people. And then you got Chuck over here, who just spent the last 10 years of his life with a sick loved one who just passed away months before he showed up at this conference, and
Mhm.
still doled it out because he loves people. He
Mhm.
was there to pour into them 2 months after his wife passed away. Not even a full 2 months. He
Yeah.
showed up at that conference. That's the type of people that we have and the quality that we have. And we have each other's backs. We're not perfect. And I needed them as much as they needed me. And I really needed them a couple months ago to lean on to get me through a situation. And if I didn't have them, it would have been so easy to slip back and do the old me.
Mhm.
And they said, no, no, we're not going there. Mhm.
Well, and I'm thinking, I was out in Chicago and Chuck took care of me. And then
Mhm.
when I flew out to Georgia, Prince saw on Facebook that I was going to Georgia and said, I'm coming to get you. You want lunch? I was like, you don't even know me. You're so sweet. But
Mhm.
that's the kind of people they are. And it was
Absolutely.
that like attracts like. So that reflects on who you are. And when they did that, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to meet Brenda. And so that is why, one, we're talking, two, you're on my show, and three, I'm going to be out in
That's
Kansas
right.
with you,
Mhm.
St. Louis with you. And
Mhm.
it's because like attracts like. And
Mhm.
if you are watching right now and listening and doing, you know what, I wonder, go check it out. Go check out the website. Okay.
We're
And
very transparent too.
yeah.
Very transparent. It's all out there. The good, the bad, the ugly, the people we have in our network, the programs that we have, my past is out there. It's all there because change is real, but
Mhm,
you got to want it. You got to want it.
mhm. And if you're going through a rough life, a rough time right now, and you're thinking no one else understands you, you might want to go to comechangeyourlife.com, because that's kind of what their specialty is.
Yes.
Her people, they're all walks of life, everything, uh, every life experience is pretty much represented in your group. And that's the other power of this whole group, comechangeyourlife.com, is someone speaking your language in there, someone. And we're all looking for one person to speak directly to us. Go find the tribe. Go see if somebody speaks to you, because that might be helping you be the best you,
That's
right?
right. And I'm telling you, it's magnificent. It's magnificent to drop the baggage. Drop that
Well, you mean we're
baggage.
not supposed to be dragging it with us for the rest of our lives?
Right.
We weren't.
That's what
We're
people
not supposed to
do.
climb the mountain and be done. We're supposed to actually. We're supposed to be done with it, not carry the mountain with us.
Right. That's right. And your life is what you make it. It is within your mindset to have the life that you want. And I'm not talking about the riches and the gold and the big houses. I'm talking about the life you want, the quality of life that you want, the friendships, the people that you want in your life. That far outweighs anything
What did I
that you
hear someone say? When someone said, you've heard the phrase, blood is thicker than water. And I said, of course. And he says, it's not the blood we think it is, the blood in our veins. I said, oh, really? He says, no, it's the sanctimonious blood. It's the blood of the family that we choose. That blood is thicker than
That's
water.
right.
And because sometimes our biggest bond is not our actual family, it's a family we choose to be family with.
That's right. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I have experienced that. And sometimes your blood family can be your biggest downfall because we are trying so hard to appease them, to make them happy. We don't want to disappoint them. And in reality, sometimes those are the ones you have to cut loose. I'm not saying cut them loose as far as not talking to them and stuff. You just deal with them differently.
Yeah.
You don't have to share every hope and dream that you have with every family member.
Yeah, and you've got to remember half the time it's the family members who do. Don't do that. That's
Right.
not. You should stay safe. Do it this way. And they're not saying it because they don't believe in you, or sometimes they don't, but really it's usually because they don't understand the unknown. They don't know what's going next. And if they can't protect you, then they don't want you to go. They're the people in your boat while you're paddling away to go somewhere really big and far and something different. And they do, no. And they're paddling the other way. Yeah. And they're throwing off the anchors, trying to keep you safe in the bubble that they understand. Remember, sometimes the people closest to you don't understand where you want to go. If Brenda was listening to her tribe of people around her, she'd still be there. She'd still be in jail.
I really would. I really would. Literally, even if I'd have filled out my full sentence, I would have just been getting out last year. Not only did I get out 34 months early, I even got off for probation early, which is kind of unheard of with a case like mine. And I never even had to do any drug testing. I never had to go in to pee in a cup. I never had to do a lot of the things that most people who get out have to do.
Yeah, the tracking stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I was very fortunate. In fact, my prosecutor, and I like to say this because I do believe it was true at the time, hated me that much. He wanted to see me go down for 30 years. At the end of my probation, I was supposed to have 5 years. I went in at 3 and said, can I get off early? And he said in writing, he did not disagree with it. There is evidence that proves that she is no longer a danger to community, that she is a changed person, coming from a man that wanted to see me do 30 years. And he did not, he said, yeah, let her off. So when your attorney asks and the prosecution agrees, the judge says, okay. He said there is convincing, his words were convincing evidence that she's a changed person.
So,
and I'd love to go interview.
Question: have you gone back to the prison you were in to ever speak?
I haven't went in to speak. I went in. I was able to visit some of the girls that were in there, and I wrote about it in my book. I have a book called "When the Truth Hunts You Down." It's on Amazon.
Wait, say it again.
When the Truth Hunts You Down. It's on Amazon. You can even go to my website and get it at thingsbybrenda.com. And it's only 100 pages. It's just a brief overview. But it talks about before, during, and after, more so of the after and the forgiveness and the why, because the why is huge. Why you need to forgive yourself and why you need to change. That's huge. And once you recognize that, you can move forward with that. But once I had to wait a year before I could even go in, but then COVID hit, so no. But I do go into the Topeka State Prison in Topeka, Kansas, and I do visit there with some of the young women. So I have been able to do that. So now stuff is opening back up.
Cool. I was like, I hope you were able to do something back because
they've actually closed.
Because they all knew you.
They did. They did. They actually closed the prison that I was at because it was not run properly. Obviously, I got out because of it, because they were allowing people to record phone calls that shouldn't have been recorded. So it was not run properly. In fact, I have an interview with one of the wardens of that prison, of that same company. on my YouTube channel, and he's going to be on. We just started a new show because people deserve a second chance if they have earned that second chance. So becoming the best you is all inclusive. It is not about prison. It is not about incarceration. That is just my story. It is about everybody to be able to become the best version of themselves, and we get them help. I created the platform because of the naysayers, because of my incarceration. So now we have a new show coming out. It's going to air in February called From Felon to Fabulous. And it's about felons who have changed their life. It's about the ones that are not going back in, or the ones that were in, out, now have been out for years, and they're contributing back to community, that they've truly become fabulous. And they're not letting their old lifestyle affect their new lifestyle. They're using it for change. They're using it to better. Some of these people are activists in their communities. They're reaching out to at-risk kids and teaching them, don't do that. Hey, just because you live in a bad neighborhood doesn't mean you have to be part of the gang. It's your choice. It's your actions. And you have a choice in that. So that's what we're looking for with the show. And we've also got a coaching program for them, From Felon to Fabulous Coaching, helping to shift their mindset into helping them be successful after prison.
Yeah, and to defy the peer pressure of going back to where you are. I mean, that's a big. You've all heard that saying about you are the equation. Was that you are a summation of the 7 people you hang around with. So you got to be careful of who you hang out with. And when you've gone into the prison life or the gang life, that kind of thing, you get used to that, and you're like, well, I don't belong. Yeah, I don't belong anywhere else. I have to go here. Well, no, if you have to go there, then that's what you will become again. So you have to find a whole new tribe. Same thing, no matter what you do. If you want to be whatever, so like Brenda, she didn't want to go back to the world she was in. She didn't go back into that group of friends and say, hey guys, we're out back. I'm going to do my thing. You guys keep doing your thing. She had to separate herself so that she can go be her.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on in your world that you need to go be you so you can go do what you want to do, change the life you want to live. It was that you can live the life you're living. You can love the life you live, right? So you can choose to stay there and be miserable and just succumb to whatever that is, or you can choose to love the life you're living and be the person you want to be. Look around you, those 7 people. Are they making you? Or are they breaking you?
That's right. Man, you couldn't have said it better. Dr. Ruben West says, are you hanging around zeros and ones? Because 0 times anything, 0 times a million, still a million. And a million, if you have a million of whatever it is, times 1, you're not gaining any value. And then you have to look at yourself. Are you that 0 or 1? That's what you got to think about. You got to change not only your actions, sometimes you got to change your circle. You absolutely do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we have about 6 minutes left, Brenda, and you are a wisdom dropper. I'm about to ask you to pick your brain. What would you like to leave the audience with? I mean, if we have a few more minutes left, we can chit chat about it. But really, what would you like to leave the audience with? Something that will change their lives for the better, because that's what you do best.
I want you to think about everything you've done in your life. And I want you to know that you have a value and you have a purpose. And you may be living that now, but you can live it better. And if you're not living it, why not? You can do what it is that you want to do in life. You got to reach in and find it. It starts inside. It starts within yourself. I encourage you to find your passion. That passion's going to lead you to your purpose. And if you can have that passion and that purpose, it's going to lead you to happiness. And I guarantee you it will change your life. Guarantee it.
And sometimes happiness does not equate to money.
Exactly.
We figured that one out already.
I was on a show once about that. It was on a financial freedom show with Sabrina Prodick. And I said,
I know Sabrina.
Yeah, Sabrina's wonderful. I said, you want me to be on a finance show? I said, my currency is love and forgiveness and relationships, right? She said, that's exactly right. That's why I want you on it. And I talked about downsizing your life. Sometimes you have to downsize to get to the upsize. You have to downsize to be able to make room for the new growth. You have to prune and you have to go through this process to get to the bigger and better. And I don't mean bigger and better with the cars and the house and the money. I mean the bigger and better you, the bigger
Mhm.
and better purpose that you have that you can give back to the community. And so that was on a finance show. And you know what? It worked because we all value things differently. What you value is different for you than it is for somebody else. I don't value the money anymore because valuing the money put me down the path of chasing the money. So now I chase the relationships and the money comes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And, no matter what you're doing, no matter what field you're in, no matter what, you've got to weed that garden. As long as you've got the weeds in your life, the fruit is not going to grow. The rose bush is not going to get any bigger because weeds in your life are what's taking the nutrients and the water from everything
Sucks you
else that
dry.
you truly want to grow. So if you want your plant, your tree, your flower, your rose, whatever, the fruit to grow, you must pull the weeds out. So look around your life and realize that sometimes the weeds are you're drinking too much, you eat out too much, or you don't work out enough, or you don't speak to people that you care about often. You just assume they know that you care, and they don't.
Mm-mm.
Those are the little things about life that we take for granted. The little things in life, that dessert in life, are letting people know you care, reaching out when you know someone needs you, or just because you want to. It's weeding the garden out of the things that don't matter so you can focus on the things that do matter. And as Brenda said, that you have to downsize to grow.
Mhm.
So
I'm
many,
per-
so often we're all, reaching and reaching and doing, I want to grow and I want more and more and more and more. When actually, really what your soul's after is less and less and less.
and less
And
is more.
less is more. And
Mhm.
Brenda and I have both gone through that cancer journey where we've realized that, life is too short. And it's very delicate. And it's scary when you start realizing that it could slip through your fingers at any time. So you stop taking for granted people, relationships,
Mhm.
and people who actually care about you to reach out and talk to you every once in a while or be there for you. It's the little things in life that actually do count. You've heard it before. The little things actually are the biggest.
They absolutely are. What do they say? The best presents come in small packages, right?
Mhm. So don't take for granted what's right in front of you, looking at the stars and trying to wonder what else you can reach as you're stepping on everybody else. Realize sometimes the things you need are right there. Sometimes they're not, but sometimes they're right there. So I'm so glad I had this time with you tonight, Brenda, and I will
So
definitely see you in the spring. Thank you
yes,
so much for sharing your story and being just that open heart that you are, that, both Chuck and Prince told me you were, and that I met you briefly. But to know that you're in the world and that you've gone through so much and that you're still here smiling and giving back tenfold, and then using the talents and trade that you had before and now applying it so other people can live their best life, be the best them in
hmm
your world. So before we say goodbye, I want everyone to realize that you can go to Brenda's website, and it is comechangeyourlife.com all together. It's right there on the screen. Comechangeyourlife.com and
you can
reach
even
out to
leave me a
Brenda.
message there.
Huh?
You can even leave me a message right there on the website.
See, you can leave her a message on the website. Reach out and go find you. Go be the best you. Thank you for joining us, and see you again next week on Mental Shift, Tuesday nights at 7:30 Mountain Time, Wednesday morning in the Philippines, 10:30 a.m. And then we'll see you around. So go be the best version of you unapologetically, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.